Okay, folks, so we're just doing a little bit of a countdown before we start here. We're slightly late because we thought we were actually live when we went. I don't know how we did that, but we just did it. So here's us going live right now, and it's a little bit of countdown music here, just to kind of set the scene, really. So it's the first time I've done this countdown stuff. So yeah, and I'm joined today by the lovely Claire. We'll introduce the lovely Claire in a moment. So yeah, we're just counting down as we're going. So have you got a cup of coffee in front of you, Claire?
Cup of tea, glass of water.
Glass of water.
Yeah.
I've got a glass of water.
Yeah.
Gin and tonic,
Yeah.
It's a bit early for gin and tonic, actually.
Just a little. Got another hour or two before that kicks in.
This is called the breakfast show after all. So breakfast tea is good. Yeah, I've just had a really good cup of coffee, actually.
It gets you going.
It does, doesn't it? So we've just done this as a dress rehearsal, but we won't tell anybody that, right?
No, that's right. Yeah.
That's like,
No, we meant to do that.
Brilliant.
It's all designed.
4, 3, 2, 1. There we go. Okay, so back onto proper live right now. Yeah, we thought we were live 15 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago, and we realised we're not live. So here we are live. So hi, welcome. This is welcome to the Leaders live stream breakfast show. We're also live, not just on LinkedIn today, we're also live for the first time on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. I've never done all of these four all at the same time, so I haven't got a clue how any of this is going to work out at all. So we're just going to have to play that one literally by ear. I'm just seeing if the live feed's popping up. Oh yeah, I can see the live feed. So that's one thing that's working well, Claire. Yeah, I can actually see us live.
Yay!
Okay. So we've got the lovely Clare Richmond in the room. We're going to come to Claire in a moment, but just a very quick teaser for you to get us going this morning. So, have you ever faced making an important decision when your back up is against the wall and the way forward just seems impossible, right? And can we actually make good decisions when we've got little or no choice, or we've got few resources, without being stifled by fear and blame? Those two awful things, fear and blame. Debasis is on, so thank you. So it's great to see you, Debasis, this morning. Welcome. And how do we take the courage, folks, to approach things when there's no neat answers that exist? And why is it so important, in today's rapidly changing economy, to envision, I can't say that very well, to envision building community that is more than just that customer focused thing, because we've kind of gone through that piece. Well, that's what we're exploring today with the lovely Claire, and that's what this Leaders Breakfast session is all about this morning. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world today. I'm Andrew Jenkins, and this morning I'm joined by Clare Richmond. Claire is a leadership and business expert, and how to realise your hidden potential, achieving far more with a lot less, is Claire's strapline. So I think that might deserve just a quick round of applause.
Thank you very much.
It just feels like we're just on live, right? This is like this is a real live show.
I'm on stage.
Yeah, so we're going to hear from Claire in a moment, just going to set the scene and some context for us this morning. So look, Leaders Live explores topics that help us to make sense of these rapidly changing times that we're living in. And you've got to be living under a rock if you haven't realised that things have changed dramatically over the last decade or so, or more, really since the dot-com era of the 90s. And Claire and I would both agree, and a lot of thought leaders are saying exactly the same thing, that we're probably going through a fourth industrial revolution right now, and we probably don't realise that yet, and history will give us those words, my guess is. And many thought leaders today, like Claire, like myself, are believing there has never been a moment quite like this one, and we ain't going to snap back to pre-pandemic times either, so I don't think we're returning back to that. And with that in mind, Leaders Live is all about building an extraordinary community of leaders, business owners, to help you to manage, to grow yourselves, grow your teams, grow your business, that begins with an inside out mindset. Starts with you, moves outwards, a mindset shift that then leads to actions that then create a better future, more business success as we move forward. So for me, I work with leaders. I build teams, I inspire organisations to achieve better future businesses through your people. That's what I do. I'm kind of known as the high performance guy, and we'll hear what Claire does in a moment. So Claire, morning to you again.
Good morning. Good morning. Lovely to see you too. I'm really well. I'm really well. Thank you very much. Yes, great.
Ah, super. So, breakfast show we have. Claire coined that phrase the other day when I just put out this advert and said, I'm on a breakfast show tomorrow. I thought, that's a cool title. Leaders Live breakfast show. So that's it, folks. That's what I'm calling it this morning. So I think that'll probably stick. So Claire, achieving far more with a lot less, that's your strap line, right? And set the scene for us. How do we make things happen successfully when we have few choices or there appears to be no neat answers? Take us away, Claire.
Yeah, so the work that I do has been inspired by working for nearly 10 years now in grassroots innovation and working with grassroots leaders. And almost by definition, that area is all about working with what you have, but not having huge budgets, not having huge resources. It is by definition working with very little to achieve a huge amount. And so the work that I do has been inspired by that and by studying this as part of my MA. So I've looked at how grassroots leaders are able to bring together people without any of the normal enticements, no salaries, no certainty, no status, nothing, but they manage to attract people to work with them and build highly effective teams out of really very disparate groups of people. Because there's no recruitment process, there's no CV selection. When you're a grassroots leader, you set up something which matters to you, and people are attracted to it, and they work together to achieve their goals. So there is a very different set of principles implied for that leader. If when you work with people, you work with them because they turn up because they want to be working with you. And for me, that's an area of fascination.
Okay. What do you mean by grassroots leader? Is that like someone's bootstrapping a new company, an entrepreneur, say, for example? What's the definition?
I mean, yes, I think nowadays it's a startup thing, but the definition for me would be somebody who has created an organization which is successfully been run for over 2 years. So it's not just a one-off little thing, and has grown exponentially. So the people that I worked with in research when I was doing my MA, for instance, had begun a variety of different organizations, and all of them had gone from what I call zero to global within a matter of years.
Wow.
So they had set up organizations or movements or a new approach to something and had managed to attract enough people to work with them that allowed that business or that organization to grow and grow successfully. And yet
nothing. Yeah.
And grow with nothing to begin. Now, I mean, as you know, I set up something very similar, nothing very grandly, but just on my local high street. Yeah. And I started with nothing. And yet what we achieved within 18 months so outstripped anything that I had imagined. I wanted to go on and understand more about it, because to me, it's about how you motivate people and how you bring people with you. And it's fascinating and important.
So that was the motivation. So tell us a little bit more about that. Open up that area for us. So you talked about some work that you did. Was that on the high street, did you say? Was that
high
street thing? So, and that was about building community rather than it's changing the face of the high street. Tell us a bit more about that, because that's quite an interesting area. And so, how that then got you into this building stuff from nothing.
Yeah. So I was living in an area which had a very nice little high street, but was looking very down at heel. And this was a good 10 years ago, before the huge interest in high streets was delivered through the government. Yeah. But I had nothing. You know, I knew that the high street was looking down at heel. I could see that there were things that perhaps could happen as a result of doing some work with the businesses, but I didn't really know how to go about it. But I just knew that it was important to try to have a go at seeing what could be done. So I set about talking to the businesses, finding out more about what they thought their challenges were, and sort of delving below my own assumptions about what I thought the problem was, because I did have a very clear view up until that point about what I thought the problem was. And so that's the first thing, was to really understand what was going on from more than just my point of view. And together, over the course of the next few months, we began to put together a group using the local businesses, working with the local businesses to identify ways that they could bring about change in their local high street. Not looking to the local authority or expecting anybody else to come in, but looking at what power they had. And when we began the process of identifying the challenges and therefore the opportunities, was very much centered around how they meet customer needs. But it was clear even then that the customer needs were not going to be met in the same way by the high street shops anymore. They were neither local or convenient. That was not something they could deliver. So what could they do? And when we looked at it, as far as I felt became very clear very quickly, was that if you can't compete on the same terms as everybody else, you have to find different terms.
Yeah.
And in this high street, get the terms. Change terms. You don't have to keep doing what you've done before just because that once worked. And you need to look again and think, well, if this isn't working, what more could we do? How can we look at this differently? And a high street serves a community. And if you can't serve the community with the products and the ranges and the convenience, maybe you can serve that community in a different way. And that is where the sustainable approach is, because the community needs are fairly universal. Wherever you live, the communities all want the same thing. Nobody wants to live in a ghost town or a place of insecurity or a place that feels unsafe. But a community needs are about feeling that you belong, feeling that you're connected and feeling valued. And if you can get the businesses to become those community connectors and to connect with the community, you're on to something very important.
Yeah. And
Claire, so that's what we did.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the feed now. Claire Milverton says she's CEO of One Spatial PLC. She said, sounds really interesting. Unfortunately, I have a call I have to attend. Can I watch this later? Well, of course you can, Claire. We'll send you the link. How about that? And Ian Price is listening in remotely whilst in the car. Safe and hands-free, my friend. I'm sure you are, but he might not be driving you. He might just be in the car. So there we are. So thanks for listening, Ian. That's great to have you on the show. That's just brilliant. So you touched on something there that's quite interesting, actually. This whole thing about belonging, being valued, and maybe even the permission to act. And these are simple human needs. They go beyond just the tick box exercises that we normally sort of tackle complex problems with. So tell us a bit more about that, Claire. How did you get to that point?
Well, in some ways it was the motivation for me getting involved in the first place and doing something, because I didn't want my community to start going downhill. I wanted to be a part of a community that I felt I belonged to and had some connection to, and that there was some energy around, there was some sense of possibility. And in all the work that I've done, the phrase I use is, on the far side of complexity lies some simple human truths that connect us all. And that is where opportunity lies, because that's the thing that has not changed, and technology will not change it. Over the years, you can go back hundreds of years and you can go forward 100 years. Humans will still require those same elements. They require connectivity, being valued, and a sense of belonging and ownership. And when you have that, when you get that in place, you create a connection, and you give people a sense of their own power and their possibility. People become capable of far more than you've ever realised before.
Don't they just? Do you know what? That just strikes such a chord with me. And this isn't a plug in any way. It's not meant to be. But we set up the Inspired CEOs during the pandemic because we realised there was a need to do something. And there was no charge for this. We set this up. It's called the Rapid Response Team at the time. And really, in response to this massive thing that just hit us like a tidal wave, didn't it? The beginning of March last year, and we had no clue where we were going, and what that meant for businesses, and how businesses would survive. And furlough wasn't a word at that point, and cash flow analysis seemed to be the predicting your cash flow and looking what you've got in reserves were the big thing at that point. And we were helping businesses at that very moment, in the 3rd of April we launched, to do exactly that. And one of the things that we said, Claire, right at the beginning of this is we want to set up a community that is about belonging and about safety and about connection, and all of those three things you've just said. And those are the important things to get to. And when things hit the fan, as it were, and life suddenly throws a curveball like it did in 2020, actually we came back to that human truth. It just felt so natural to do that, Claire. And I think that's what you're saying there as well, that in all of this complexity, if you take it all away and you get to simple truths again, you can build from there. Is that what you're saying, Claire?
Yes, and one of the things that I'm a strong believer in is helping people to develop a mindset of abundance.
Right.
Where they can instead of thinking we haven't got enough, we don't have enough resources, we don't have enough time, actually just change slightly and have faith that actually people are capable of far more. You can deliver. I mean, and sometimes, when I talk to leaders and work in organizations, one thing you need to say is, well, why are you still trying to achieve this? Maybe the thing to do is to change what it is you're doing slightly to fit in with what's possible. Yeah. But it's about working with what you've already got. And if you have a mindset of abundance, then you know that people are innately resourceful, enterprising, self-motivating, and self-organizing.
Wow. I mean, I really like that, and actually that's when you realize that people are like that, right? Isn't that interesting? That's fascinating. And there's something about permission there, Claire, that actually if we give ourselves permission, or we are given permission, and there's no controlling force around us, then perhaps that helps us, Claire, to have that sense of permission. What do you think?
I think that's absolutely right. And it's one of the things that, it is exemplified in grassroots leadership, where there really isn't permission. You just set something up. I wasn't given permission to set up the high street thing. It was just, I could see a need and started doing it. Yeah. And I think there's something really important about when people realize they have the power to deliver something, yeah, and I mean, it's a great song. It's a great song. You can't look it. But people are ultimately. I mean, you only need to look at any natural disaster to see how people on the ground come together and create a response and support each other and organize themselves. Whether you're looking at Katrina or Grenfell or any war, you will see that people manage to self-organize and manage to help each other in a way that actually the top-down approach is often unable to do. And that demonstrates time and time again, it doesn't matter what job you've done, what qualifications you have. It doesn't matter where you live or which family's done. When push comes to shove, if you're given the right conditions, people are highly resourceful and highly capable and very enterprising. And I mean, I've seen that time and time again. The most unexpected people, the most unlikely situations create the most extraordinary results.
And those are times when, you talked about war or pestilence or a pandemic, or, they threaten the ailing high street. They're kind of motivators of disadvantage that galvanize people. How can we take this in just ordinary situations in life, and how can we learn from this and apply this in everyday life? Is that possible?
Of course, but it starts with a process which I think, it's sort of like an inspirational kickstart to people being involved, knowing, believing, seeing, understanding that they already have what they need. Because if you start from a point that it's a phrase I use, which is a paucity mindset, where we don't have enough, we don't have the right skills, there isn't the right talent, we don't have the time, we don't have the money. If only we had this, then we could deliver this amazing thing. But my argument is, look again and look deeper at what you already have.
So we don't need all the stuff around us. We can work with what we've got, right? That's what you're encouraging us to do.
What I found is that very often people don't know what they've already got.
Right.
They don't realise. So, even within your own teams, you may not be aware of somebody's particular skill set that, they may have been doing the same job for ages, but actually they may have some really useful insights into things. And so there's this developing a mindset of abundance means creating a space where people can contribute fully.
Right.
So it's about looking at, as you were talking about safety earlier on, how open do people feel to getting involved, to contributing? How often do you ask people
Okay.
how they'd like to contribute, what they know. I mean, and if you look at even the GE when they went through massive transformation, Jeffrey Immelt said this extraordinary thing about, even though it's a massive global company, one of the biggest in the world, he said one of the most important things he did was to go and discover the local voice.
Okay.
Because that was allowed him to have the local voice gave him the global impact. So it's about creating a mindset.
Gave him a
understanding the local voice creates a global impact, because you understand more about, even in a huge organization, going to the far reaches of your organization and talking to people you don't normally talk to.
Okay.
Even when you stop, if the smallest thing can make a difference. If all you do is have a think about how many people's advice you seek when you make a decision, how many people you ask the question of, how many people you discover, how much of people involved. And it could be a small organization, or it could be a huge organization. That is the starting point. Getting to understand what's going on, getting under the belly of what you know, and introducing people. And the other thing, so the simple thing is, looking at your mindset. Yeah. Secondly, how often do you involve people? Who do you involve? What do you expect of them? And, creating a space where people can contribute is really critical.
And there it is, isn't it? Creating that space where people can contribute. I'm just wondering, can you hear my voice okay? I've just been giving a little bit of feedback from people saying my voice is very low. So Clive, Bevan, if you can give
got
me
those lovely
some
deep
feedback
tones.
on that. Yeah, I can hear it all right, but I've just turned the volume up a little bit. So hopefully,
You're
Clive,
doing a bit of a Barry White on us.
That's a lot better. And Peter's given me some feedback as well. So thank you for that. So hopefully that's coming across a lot better, even more betterer now. So so it's about those connections, isn't it? And I think that's really interesting, that if we can build the space, as you said, to have to create those connections and build that trust and that sense of safety and belonging in a group, then people contribute in better ways, right? Claire, is that kind of what you're right?
Yes, and I think there's, if you look at grassroots leaders, they start with a very clear vision of what it is they want to achieve. They don't know how they're going to achieve it.
Okay.
There's no sort of this is what we're going to do, therefore everybody, you've got to do it exactly like this, because they don't know.
Yeah.
But they know there's something important they want to do. Okay. And then people come to them. And if you can create a space where people feel they can come in and contribute openly and honestly, there's a very I think it was Isaacs, who's one of these academics, who talks about people only contribute, people only collaborate if they feel they can be open and public about their mistakes and about things that go wrong. If people don't have a space where they feel that they can genuinely contribute honestly and openly about things that, and there's safely, another, right? And it's as important for innovation as it is about understanding what's really going on. It's important that it's open and safe, because to contribute something innovatively, to think different ideas, to be creative, to think beyond the boundaries of where you are, to start really imagining what could be possible.
Absolutely.
You need a space where people can say whatever they like. There's a lovely Francis Crick, who was the father of DNA. And I'm going to paraphrase all my quotes. I'm afraid I'm terrible at remembering them. But he talked about the fact that there was a day when he and his partner Stanley used to just literally say whatever came out of them, whatever they were thinking, they could say it out loud. And it was a day where, or I think it might have been the whole thing, but the whole week. But the premise behind it was, you never know when a random thought's going to lead to a new idea. But if we only ever say things that have been done before, and this is what works, or this is what doesn't work, then you will never see what the real potential is. So having a place of safety is really critical.
And there's no stupid questions, right? Actually, if you feel like you belong somewhere and you feel safe in it, there's an academic study done, which I read about, and I can't remember the quote of this, but it was essentially a group of MBA students were given a task to build something out of Lego or some sort of kit, and then because they were sort of so highly academic and very competing, you would expect them with their intelligence to do really well, and they were pitched against a group of kids doing exactly the same thing. And interestingly, the kids cooperated so much better in that exercise because they didn't have the ego that was in the way, and the expectation of intelligence, and there were no stupid questions, and kids just organize themselves, as you say, to do this really, really well, and they beat the MBA students hands down in this exercise. And in the analysis, it was the reason for that was that they built trust, that they had a sense of belonging, that they felt safe with one another, and they didn't feel that they were competing against one another. And because of that, they performed really well. And I guess you're saying the same thing, simple human truths of connection, belonging, safety, and when people feel safe in a group, they can perform extraordinarily if they're given permission as well, right?
And also if they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing there.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, I mean, it's like, what is it we're trying to achieve here? What is it we're trying to achieve? What's the point of this? What's the direction? So being very clear about that. There's a lovely quote, which I've written down because I think it's so powerful and important, which is some problems, and it sums up our period of time we're living through now. Some problems are so complex.
Yeah.
You have to be highly intelligent and well informed just to be undecided about them.
So
and
you don't make any decisions, right? So all that intelligence goes to waste almost in this sense.
Well, I mean, the intelligence approach is, taking leaf out of scientists, the intelligent approach is to say what you know and what you don't know.
Okay. Yes, indeed.
The reality is we don't know a lot.
Yeah. So knowing what we don't know is important, right?
Don't know is as important a starting place as knowing.
Okay.
Because when you know you don't know, then you look out for things.
Okay.
And you can work, you can capture emerging opportunities and address emerging issues. But if you think you know things, then you're not really engaged in what's going on.
And you can make massive assumptions, right? So there's a few things there. There's break the assumptions. Work on something that makes a difference. Dare to care, Claire. Dare to care. Dare to care, Claire. That's what I was trying to say. So that's got a ring to it. That and about permission as well, and this whole thing about safety and belonging that we've talked a lot about today. So, is this why transformation boils down to those simple truths, that kind of mindset shift? And that's how we approach problems with no neat answers. Is that kind of some of your hints and tips for us this morning?
So I would say the first thing is in terms of working in an uncertain world, I have a phrase which is be clear about direction but open to the route.
Okay, be clear about the direction but open to the route. Okay.
Yeah. Know what you're doing. Understand what that means, how that relates to the people that you work around. How does that embed itself? What do people think they're doing? How can they contribute? So that, understanding that clear direction is really critical. Whether you want to call it purpose or vision, or it's all about being really clear about what it is you're doing and understand how that relates to the people you're working with. But be open to the route. So keep engaged with the purpose and the people involved, because we don't know. So you need to keep engaged with it and be aware that if something comes up, you need to do. It's the metaphor I use is a very simple one, which is the captain getting on the ship knows exactly where he's heading.
Sure.
But should an iceberg suddenly appear in the middle of the sea, you're going to hope he's going to navigate around it. So, there are going to be things that are going to happen.
Okay.
There just are. The only thing we can be sure of is that we don't know. The only thing we can be sure of is that unexpected outcomes will occur. So how we respond to those are very important. So being clear about direction and open to the route is really key. And the other thing is to start small, but start somewhere. Act to learn. Don't just assume things, as you say.
And I suppose the other thing is to take time, and we'll probably finish here actually, but is to take time and understand the problem, really, rather than jumping to solution too quickly.
Absolutely. Invest in the bit of getting to know what your problems are, get round and who's involved in them. Invest in a mindset of abundance, become a scavenger leader, get out there and really get to know your world and work with it. Work with reality, don't try to control it.
Oh, I like that. Work with reality and don't try to control it. And I suppose the other thing is when you start to build community in this way and you build that community of problem solving and decision making, you create something quite special, because at that point it's not 1 and 1 equals 2. It's one-on-one equals new, as my friend Chris Harding calls it. I call
Lovely.
it I to the power of we is what I call it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, it's it changes slightly the way people the role of leadership.
Yeah.
Leadership is still very, very important, but it changes the role and it takes the onus off all the leader. It becomes a much more, as you said, I to the power of we. It's a collaborative thing. It's about everybody working together towards something that matters to them all.
Yeah. Thank you, Claire. That's brilliant. So listen, I think we're going to end it there, but I just want to say, folks, look, I hope you found this useful this morning. And I hope this has given you further food for thought, people. I'm just a bit worried about the volume of this. So I hope you can all hear me okay. And, if you're seeking to do more with less, or you want to know more about how to approach complex problems, that there doesn't seem to be a simple, neat answer, then please feel free to contact Clare Richmond. If you're seeking any help with building high-performing teams, then please contact me via the PDX website. And also, if you're an SME business owner who's finding it lonely at the top, then please feel free to contact me about joining the Inspired CEOs community. I'd love to tell you more about that. So all the links will be in the description shortly. And I hope to fix this volume issue. And that's where we are right now. And I've just lost Claire just for a moment. So let's just say goodbye to Claire. Thanks very much, Claire.
Pleasure. Lovely to see you again.
Cheers, everybody. Have
Bye.
a great day, everybody, or a great evening, great afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Cheers for now. And see you again live shortly. Bye for now.
Bye.